And welcome to the Setup and Buyer's Guide for the clarinet. When you're getting started with playing the clarinet, there's a few things to consider. The first of which is usually, should I rent an instrument or buy it? I get this question all the time from my students. When getting into any new instrument, I often recommend renting is a good option, especially if you live in a large urban area where there are more than one big music store to go to. Most of those music stores will have some kind of rental program, and the cost of a rental for an instrument like a student or an intermediate clarinet is going to be very affordable, usually in the $30 a month range, and it often is even less expensive if you commit for 6 months or an entire year. What this will allow you to do is really try out the instrument. You can try out more than one clarinet. You could try out one for a month and take it back in and try out a different one. And this will give you a chance to get comfortable with the instrument. The main difference between student clarinet and intermediate or advanced ones is what the instrument's actually made of. The clarinet traditionally was always made of wood. Even though it's very dark, it's usually lacquered or painted, but they're usually made of wood, and those are at the high end and are quite expensive. Professional clarinets can be quite expensive to get into. And student level clarinets are simply made of plastic. And this clarinet is made of plastic. It's a student level clarinet, and it sounds really good and plays very consistently, but you would notice the difference between this and a professional one if they were played side by side. A professional level clarinet will have a lot more warmth to the sound, and a student level clarinet will be a little bit more not harsh sounding, but it'll have less of the dynamic sound because it's passing through plastic instead of wood. When you're getting into buying clarinets, there are three main price levels, like there are for almost every instrument. There are student level instruments, and then above that are intermediate, and above that are professional level. In the student level price, you're looking at a beginning price of around $400 to $500 for a student level clarinet, going up towards $600 or $700. And inside that range, there'll be some variation in quality. I like to suggest always that try never to buy the very cheapest thing, because if there's cost cutting going on from the manufacturer, you'll see it the most right at the lowest price point. So if you can afford to go up even $50 or $100 above the cheapest thing you find, usually you'll get a big jump in quality. Intermediate clarinets start in the $700 to $800 range and go up to $1,000. And you'll just have more durability, a little bit better sound. The pads that are on the clarinet will usually be of a higher quality, and the mouthpiece will usually be a bit better as well. And professional level clarinets are almost always made of wood and start above $1,000 and go up into the many thousands of dollars. A clarinet is a very delicate instrument, so when you're handling it, it's really important not to squish down on any of the rods or any of the springs. And when you're taking it apart and putting it together, always be very gentle. I always like to think like I'm handling, a very delicate thing. Not quite as delicate as an egg, but, around that delicate. Whenever you have any instrument, it's always good to plan for some regular maintenance. A clarinet that's being played on a regular basis, you should probably plan on it once a year taking it in to have it serviced. There are just some basic wear and tear things that happen on all wind instruments. So the pads are going to get corroded because you're blowing air through and they're getting wet and then they're drying. They don't always all need to be replaced every year, but the ones closer to the top will need to be replaced more often. And any good repair technician will just have a quick look at it and they'll know which ones need to be replaced. Also, if any of the rods or springs become bent or loose, they'll be tightened up, and having your instrument play really well is a key component to keeping going with your practicing and playing and being excited about it. If you're ever frustrated and the sound is just not really working, it's good to take your instrument in and make sure that there's nothing mechanically going wrong. When you're starting out playing clarinet, another thing to think about is what kind of reeds you're going to use. So, much like a saxophone, a clarinet has a reed, and they're measured by the thickness. Now, I happen to use Rico Royales. I'm not an endorser of their product. I don't work for them or anything. That happens to be my choice of reed company that I like. But there are many different reed companies. Most of them use a number system for rating how thick the reeds are. And in the case of Rico, they start at 1 and it goes up to 5. And in between, there's 1 and then 1.5, 2, 2.5. 5 being the hardest and 1 being the lightest. Now, I would suggest for any beginner, even though it starts at 1, I wouldn't buy number 1 or 1.5 reeds. They're so light and flimsy that 1, they don't last very long, and 2, you don't need them to be that light even for a beginner. So I recommend starting with a 2 or 2.5. And the reason for having the reeds get harder as you get more comfortable is that it allows you to have more volume. So if the reed is really light and you blow really hard, it'll either split or you'll get a lot of squeaking. So as your breathing muscles get stronger and you get more comfortable on the clarinet, you can handle a thicker and thicker reed. It also depends a little bit on what musical situation you're in. So I have different reed strengths. Sometimes if I'm playing a clarinet and I'm going to be somewhere in a loud situation where I need to really project, I'll put on a heavier reed, and if I'm in a situation where I need to be a little more quiet, I'll change my reed to something else.